Imagine this. You've just stepped off a long flight, you're tired, maybe a little disoriented, and all you want to do is collapse into a comfy hotel bed. But standing between you and that sweet slumber, the hotel front desk, and perhaps a language barrier. For some, this moment can feel scarier than a horror movie jump scare. But what if I told you it doesn't have to be? What if mastering just a few simple phrases could transform this potentially terrifying moment into a smooth, even enjoyable experience? Because despite all the apps and contactless tech, that initial human connection, even a simple hello, can make all the difference. Welcome to Daily English Practice. Listen and speak.
Absolutely. And today we're doing a deep dive into English for hotel check-in.
Yeah.
Our mission for this deep dive is, well, to equip you with the essential English phrases and understanding for a smooth hotel experience. Right from your first step into the lobby until you check out, we're going to break down the key interactions, share some genuinely surprising facts, and yes, sprinkle in just enough humor to keep you hooked and feeling confident.
That's right. The hospitality world is evolving so rapidly, becoming incredibly global. And guest expectations are constantly shifting towards convenience and personalization. But no matter how advanced the tech gets, clear and polite communication remains, well, universally vital. We'll show you how knowing these practical phrases empowers you. Whether you're a guest navigating a new city or even someone working on the other side of that front desk, it's really about confidence and connection.
Okay, let's unpack this journey then. You've just arrived at the hotel, luggage in hand, maybe a bit weary but hopeful. What's the very first thing you say to that receptionist? How do you kick off this interaction effectively?
Right, you want to be both polite and direct. Sort of set a positive tone immediately. A straightforward approach is simply, "I'd like to check in, please." Easy enough. If you're smart and you've already booked your room, which honestly we always recommend to avoid unnecessary stress, you'd add, "I have a reservation under your name." Or, if you prefer a touch more formality, "I have a reservation in the name of your full name or surname." Work just as well. And for those of you maybe traveling with a group or attending an event, you might need to clarify, "I'm with the group conference name and have a reservation made by organization name." It just helps them find your booking faster, saves everyone time.
That sounds like the perfect start. You've announced your arrival, great. But it often feels like that's just the tip of the iceberg, doesn't it? What crucial information will the receptionist typically ask for next? It can really feel a bit like an interrogation if you're not prepared, especially after a long journey.
It absolutely can feel that way. And the most common request you'll probably hear is, "Could I see some ID, please?" Now, when they say ID, they just mean your official identification could be your passport, a national identity card, maybe your driving license. It's simply to confirm your identity against the reservation details they have. Standard stuff. After that, yeah, they'll often present a form saying something like, "Could you please fill out this form with your details?" And then sign at the bottom of the form. This form typically asks for, your name, address, nationality, ID number, contact details. It's standard procedure pretty much worldwide.
Okay, got it. And what about the money side of things? Because I've heard a lot of travelers get surprised by what sometimes feel like hidden fees or these large deposits that suddenly appear on their credit card statement. It's definitely something that can catch people off guard, right?
Well, you're touching on a really critical point there. It's a frequent source of guest frustration if it's not understood properly. Hotels commonly place what's called a temporary hold on your credit card. Now, this isn't an immediate charge, okay? It's more like a block on a certain amount of funds, could be up to $500, sometimes even more, just to cover potential incidentals. Think minibar use, room service, maybe potential damages. It's the hotel's way of managing risks, making sure they're covered. Now, what's crucial to understand, and this is important, if you're using a debit card, hotels might put an even larger hold, or in some cases, actually require a cash deposit. This is because a debit card hold usually deducts the money from your account right away, and it can take days, sometimes even weeks, for that hold to be released after you check out. It's not instant. So if you're on a tighter budget or you plan to use a debit card, it's always a good idea to call the hotel ahead of time. Just ask about their specific policy on holds and deposits. Transparency about these potential charges is key to avoiding an unwelcome surprise later.
That is an invaluable tip, especially the difference between credit and debit cards. Wow. But okay, what if the worst happens? You arrive without a reservation, maybe you winged it, or the hotel is just surprisingly full when you get there. That's a moment that could trigger anyone's travel anxiety. I mean, nobody wants to be stranded without a place to stay.
Definitely a scenario we want to prepare you for. It happens. If you don't have a booking, you'll start by asking simply, "Do you have any rooms available for tonight?" Again, the receptionist will then check their system. And you might hear something like, let me just check our system.
Hmm.
I am afraid that we are fully booked tonight, Mademoiselle. Ken, if that happens, try not to panic. You can politely seek help. Could you possibly recommend another hotel nearby? Then we'll Ken. To really show you're taking initiative, a very polite and proactive follow-up is, would you mind calling them to see if they have any vacancies? Who can? It shows you're trying to solve the problem and makes it easier for them to assist you. If they do give you a recommendation, especially if you're in an unfamiliar city, you'll absolutely want to ask, could you show us where that is on a map, please? This is vital, especially for non-native speakers, as spoken directions can be incredibly tricky to follow sometimes.
So it's really clear that having these phrases ready can turn what could be a super stressful moment into a confident interaction. It sounds like you're not just asking for a room, you're sort of taking control of your travel experience, even if there's an unexpected detour to another hotel.
Exactly. It's all about empowerment, isn't it? Knowing how to communicate clearly gives you that control.
Right. Okay. Now, you've successfully got your key, you're heading up to the room, success. But the initial check-in, that's just the beginning, really. What if you have more questions later? Or need something special during your stay?
Precisely. Once you're settling in, your questions often shift from the logistics to comfort and convenience. Common queries include asking about basic room amenities. Does the room have Wi-Fi? Or is there cable television? Or does the room have air conditioning? These are usually the must-haves for most travelers these days. Specifically for the internet, you might need to ask, what's the Wi-Fi password? Or, if you're having trouble connecting, which happens more often than you'd think, I'm having problems connecting to the internet. For dining, it's very common to ask, where do we have breakfast? Or what time is breakfast served? And the typical response will be pretty clear. Breakfast is served between start time and end time.
And what if you have, say, an early flight or a really critical meeting and you absolutely need to be up at a specific time? You can't always rely just on your phone alarm.
Good point. Yeah. You can easily arrange for that reliable backup by asking the front desk, could I have a wake-up call tomorrow at time, please? It's a classic hotel service for a very good reason, still very useful. For comfort, you might find you need, say, some extra towels, please, or maybe an extra blanket if the air conditioning is a bit enthusiastic. And for that ultimate convenience, especially after a long day of sightseeing or work, a simple "can I order room" service covers your dining needs without even leaving your room.
Okay, but what about more specific requests for your room itself, beyond just the standard amenities? Like if you're celebrating something special, an anniversary maybe, or you're traveling with a big family and need rooms close together?
Absolutely. Hotels often try to accommodate special requests if you ask politely and, of course, if they have the availability. You could ask, is it possible to have a room with a view? Because, let's face it, who doesn't love a good view? Or if you're traveling with kids, could you perhaps arrange for an extra bed? For groups or families who want to be close, a super useful phrase is it possible to have adjoining rooms? That means rooms that actually share a connecting door inside. It's a real game changer for families, offers privacy, but keeps everyone close.
This brings up such an important question, one I think a lot of our listeners probably wonder about. How do you make sure these requests land politely and professionally? Because tone and phrasing make a huge difference in the hospitality world, right? It's not just what you say, but definitely how you say it.
That's precisely it. The how makes all the difference, truly. The key is using polite phrasing, which often relies heavily on what linguists call modal verbs. So we really emphasize using phrases like, could I have? Is it possible to? And would you mind? Called it. Generally, just incorporating words like may, should, would, and could when asking questions really softens your request. It makes you sound much more courteous. Think of it this way. You're not just making a demand, you're inviting them to assist you. It changes the whole dynamic of the interaction. Our research shows hotel staff are trained to respond really positively to polite, clear communication. They often go above and beyond simply because you've treated them with respect. It really creates more of a partnership, not just a transaction. Honestly, a simple please and thank you can unlock better service, maybe getting that better room or a quicker response.
That's a great point. It's really about signaling respect and partnership. Now, sometimes, despite all that politeness, things don't go perfectly during your stay. We've all been there. The air conditioning suddenly stops working, or maybe you misplace your key card. What if you run into a problem with your room or the service? How do you report it effectively without sounding, demanding or overly frustrated?
It happens to everyone, sooner or later. The important thing is to address it calmly and clearly. For common complaints, we can equip you with phrases like, the air conditioning in our room isn't working, very direct. Or there seems to be a problem with the hot water. For key issues, it's simply, my key doesn't seem to work. And here's a genuinely surprising fact that catches many people off guard. Hotel key cards can actually demagnetize really easily if you keep them too close to your phone, or even credit cards or other electronics in your wallet. So if your key suddenly stops working, don't worry too much. It's perfectly okay to go back to the front desk and just ask for a new one. It's a very common occurrence.
Wow, I had absolutely no idea about the demagnetization. That's super practical information. Okay, what about other common issues, like maybe housekeeping concerns? Or, heaven forbid, actually losing your room key entirely?
Right. For housekeeping concerns, you could say, my room hasn't been made up yet, if it seems like it was missed. Or perhaps, could you please change the sheets if you need fresh linen for any reason? If you've lost your key, which can cause a moment of panic, just calmly explain, I seem to have lost my room key. A practical tip here, and this is really important for security, always try to carry some form of ID with you when you leave your room. A good hotel won't issue a new key without confirming you're actually a registered guest. It's for your own protection. And look, if you genuinely don't like your room, maybe it's too noisy or the view is of a brick wall, you can always politely inquire, is it possible to perhaps change rooms?
What's really fascinating here, listening to you, is the language around problems still involves that polite framing. Even when you're the one with the issue, you're not demanding, you're sort of reporting it and seeking a solution together. It's a subtle but powerful difference in approach.
That's exactly right. It's about clear communication focused on resolution, not blame. And remember, from the hotel staff's perspective, they are rigorously trained to apologize immediately. That's usually the first step. Then they'll work to rectify the situation and often to offer some form of compensation to make up for the inconvenience. That could be something small, like a complimentary drink or amenity, maybe a discount on your bill, or even a room upgrade if the issue is significant. So when you state your problem politely and clearly, you should expect not just an acknowledgement, but an apology and a proactive solution. They genuinely want to make it right.
Makes sense. Okay, moving beyond the room itself, you often need to get around in the local area. How do you ask for directions or help with transportation, whether you're exploring the city or heading to a business meeting?
Yes. Essential phrases for directions and transportation are key to navigating any new city confidently. You can ask things like, how do I get to the nearest metro station? Or, what's the best way to get to the History Museum from here? Always remember to specify your preferred mode of transport if you have one, like walking or public transit. For walking directions specifically, a simple, could you give me directions to the train station is useful. If you need a ride, you can ask, could you please call me a taxi? Or perhaps, could you book a taxi for me for time?
And always inquire about hotel-provided transport first. Is there a shuttle service to the airport? This could potentially save you significant time and money, and hotels sometimes have better rates or exclusive services available for guests.
All right, time flies and the end of your stay has arrived. It's time to check out. What do you need to know and say to ensure a smooth, no-fuss departure? It's the final impression you leave, after all, and maybe the first step towards planning your next adventure. Exactly. The checkout should be as smooth as the check-in, ideally. First, always confirm the timing. What time do I need to check out? Or simply, what time is checkout? This is crucial to avoid any unexpected late fees. Now, if your flight is much later in the day and you need a little more time in your room, you can certainly ask, could I possibly have a late checkout, please? Just be aware, this might come with an extra fee. Often it's like a half-day rate, but it's definitely worth asking, especially if the hotel doesn't seem fully booked. When you're actually ready to leave, the direct phrase is simply, I'd like to check out, please.
And what about settling that final bill? That's where all those potential temporary holds and incidental charges come back into play, right?
Precisely. It's time to settle up. For payment questions, can I pay by card, is standard, or specify Visa, MasterCard, etc. But, and this does happen sometimes, if you look at your bill and spot something amiss or unexpected, you can politely say, excuse me, I think there might be a mistake on my bill. Be prepared to point out what you believe is incorrect, calmly. It's also always wise to get documentation for your own records. Can I have a copy of the bill, please? Or perhaps ask them to email it to you. Very common now. Finally, if your flight is much later than the checkout time, you'll often need somewhere to store your bags. Could I leave my bags here for a few hours, or can you store my luggage until this afternoon? are common and usually accommodated requests. Hotels usually have a dedicated, secure luggage room for this.
Okay, that covers the traditional checkout, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, what about all the modern ways to check in and out? The ones that are increasingly common and can save you a ton of time. I mean, completely bypassing the front desk sometimes seems like the ultimate dream for busy travelers.
It truly is becoming a reality. This is where technology really shines in hospitality, offering incredible convenience. Many hotels now offer online check-in, which allows you to complete your registration details via the hotel's website or their mobile app before you even arrive. This saves significant time queuing up at the front desk upon arrival. And it often allows for personalization too, like selecting your room preferences, maybe a high floor or away from the elevator, or even choosing a specific room number sometimes. It means less time dealing with admin and more time actually enjoying your trip. And it gets even cooler. Some major hotel chains now have sophisticated mobile apps that allow you to use your smartphone as your actual room key. That means, theoretically, you might literally never need to physically interact with the front desk at all if you don't want or need to.
Wow, that's truly fascinating, the idea of avoiding the desk entirely. I had no idea that was becoming so widespread already. Is it the same for checking out, or do you generally still need to stop by the desk for that final step?
Actually, checkout is often streamlined too, for many modern hotels that use those plastic key cards. A surprising fact for traditional checkout is that you can often just leave the key card in the room when you depart. Or sometimes there's a designated drop-off box in the lobby. You don't necessarily need to physically go to the front desk and wait in line, unless of course you have questions about your bill or need that luggage storage we mentioned. It streamlines the departure process considerably. And finally, no matter how you check out high-tech or traditional, always try to end with a polite closing. It just leaves a good final impression and maintains that positive human connection, even if brief. Something simple like, "Thank you very much, I had a great stay," or "We really enjoyed our stay here, thank you." Yeah, it's a small gesture, but it can make a big difference to the staff.
This whole deep dive has really shown how understanding just a few key English phrases can genuinely transform your hotel experience. It can take it from potentially intimidating, especially in a foreign country, to incredibly smooth and confident. It's clearly more than just memorizing words. It's about navigating sometimes complex situations, solving problems with ease, and ultimately ensuring your comfort and enjoyment throughout your travels. It really feels like being more in control.
Exactly that. A little bit of preparation in English communication can profoundly impact your overall guest satisfaction. It makes a real tangible difference in how you experience and enjoy your travels. And even with the rapid rise of all this amazing technology, the ability to communicate clearly and politely with hotel staff remains an absolutely invaluable skill. It often turns potential issues or minor inconveniences into positive memories because they were handled well. It's like your secret travel weapon.
So the takeaway is, next time you travel, think about how these relatively small linguistic steps can unlock a smoother, more enjoyable journey. How they can make every hotel feel a little less foreign and a little more like, well, like a temporary home. And it makes you wonder if mastering a few phrases can transform your hotel experience so much. What other everyday situations could be profoundly changed and made significantly easier with just a few essential English phrases? Something to think about.
That's all for this deep dive on English for Hotel Check-In. Thank you for listening to Daily English Practice. Listen and speak.